Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to get started here in about 2 minutes. All right, well, it is 9:01 now, so why don't we go ahead and get started with the SAFR from Real Networks July webinar. Today we're going to focus on our new SAFR Scan product. We've got 3 speakers, so myself, Brad Donaldson, General Manager for SAFR. We've got our returning champion, John Cassis, Senior Director of Product Management. He'll be given a good overview of the SAFR Scan product. And then we've got Steve McMillan on, who is going to do a real world demo. We've got one set up in our office up in Seattle. And he's going to walk us through some enrollment functionality and show some of the integration work that we've done. So we're going to talk initially about some of the advantages of the product. For those of you that were on the webinar last month, we're going to rehash a little bit of that and talk about some new advantages. John will talk in a little more detail about some of the features, and then Steve will be doing the integration and the enrollment demo. And as always, feel free to ask questions as we go along. We'll try and get to them and answer them as we go. But happy to answer any questions. And if we don't get to it, we'll certainly follow up afterwards with an email. So let's talk a little bit about some of the advantages that SAFR has in general with our algorithms. So SAFR has developed our own unique set of algorithms around facial recognition. And this is 5 years in the making. We don't license our algorithms from anybody. It's all homegrown in-house. And because of that, we can do things, and we do things that are unique and different than what the competitors do. So one thing is we've optimized the algorithms that we have for the applications that we're in, meaning live video type applications. So we're not optimizing our algorithms for looking at mug shots or passport photos or these ideal images where you're posed in front of the camera. Our algorithms are very strong in live video applications where you may not have the best image of the person. It may be occluded, it may be from the side. You might not have the best pixel density. So if you look at our scores, and these are available through NIST, if you look at our NIST scores, we perform very well in the category of faces in the wild, which is the category that represents live video. We also are, of those algorithms in NIST that perform well in this category, we are the most lightweight on hardware, and we're the fastest. And that translates into very embeddable and very good for edge applications, which is what we're talking about here with our SAFR Scan product. This is a solution that runs completely on the edge. all of our algorithms, all of the processing is actually done on the device out on the edge. So you get this highly accurate, very fast embedded solution on the edge. We also have very strong scores within NIST for bias, which is another important feature for facial recognition. So if you look at our scores compared to competitors, we are at the top within the NIST rankings, and that's because we did the development internally with data sets that we curated and that we control. So we were able to make sure that that bias didn't creep into those algorithms. So that's just kind of an overview of the SAFR algorithms and why these algorithms that we created are the best algorithms for this type of application. Which brings us to the SAFR Scan product, which is our new facial recognition touchless access control door station that we introduced a couple months ago and is now shipping. So it's an entirely frictionless experience for access control. Unlike other facial recognition type access control devices, you don't have to stop and pose. Again, since we are the best algorithm for live video applications, this device allows you to just seamlessly walk through a door. By the time you grab the handle of the door, it will be unlocked, assuming you're enrolled in the system. So it's very seamless and it's very fast. It's very intuitive. And it's very secure. There are challenges with existing access control mechanisms and procedures that are just not inherently just not secure. And with this type of solution, you get the most convenient solution and the most secure solution all in one. And we easily integrate into your existing access control solution, whether that's through native integration, which we'll talk about and show you a demo of in a little bit, or just through common protocols like Wiegand or OSDP. So this is the culmination of several years of development. It's the first hardware software combination product that Real Networks has launched. I mean, Real Networks. All of you probably remember Real Networks from the early days of the internet. They were pioneers in streaming media. Real Networks has been around for almost 30 years, and this is the first hardware product that they've released. And the reason we decided to develop our own hardware was because we needed to optimize the hardware for these algorithms that we had to provide the most efficient and most cost-effective and best solution for the market. So by designing our own product, and while this is Real Networks' first hardware product, it's not my first hardware product, and certainly other folks within SAFR have brought hardware products to market as well. So this is a very high quality, optimized product for the market that we think is going to be a real breakthrough product and really disrupt the access control market with the features and functions that it has. And again, it's purpose built for access control and for the algorithms that have been developed by the SAFR data science team. So this is really a highly optimized product for an edge access control application. So with that, I'm gonna hand it off to John Cassis, who's going to talk a little bit more about some of the more specific features and functions within the SAFR Scan product. So without further ado, here's John.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time with us this morning, this afternoon, or actually in some cases, I'm looking maybe even this evening. So as Brad mentioned, Real Networks has had computer vision analytics for a number of years now. We've done integration into third-party cameras for surveillance applications and even access control applications. But realistically, the issue is they were cameras, and everybody knows on this phone call, when it comes to access control, you need specific features, you need specific interfaces in order to achieve that sort of objective. And so that's what SAFR Scan is. It's taking the years of computer analytics and putting it into a piece of hardware out at the edge that really meets the needs of an access control environment. And as Brad mentioned, frictionless. And so what we really did is we said, okay, let's build this package that we can fit out there that is an actual IoT device. You're familiar with a lot of solutions where there's sort of a two-stage, they put a device out at the door, but then it's talking back to some server or some database that then talks back to something else. And so several points of failure, very complex and difficult and costly to deploy. So we're looking at a traditional reader. Everything exists inside the device. All the analytics, all the computer vision capabilities are happening inside the device in a modern look, ruggedized, outdoor rated product that really addresses the needs and the problems for facial recognition that have sort of plagued our industry for so many years. You can think about a lot of the products, they say frictionless, but you sort of have to, walk to it, stop, pose, wait, and then, it'll eventually analyze that and authorize that picture. But a very timely process. Also dealing with things like lighting. A lot of face recognition products over the past few years have really been plagued by various lighting conditions. Also, spoof detection. What kind of technologies are developed in order to detect fake images, pictures, high resolution images, video, things of that nature. But then how does that complicate the enrollment process? And then probably one of the other issues is cost. Face recognition has obviously surpassed pricing of fingerprint technology by multiples, and obviously significantly more than that of cards and readers. And so the focus here was to develop and use existing hardware that was already available to us that would allow us to take our lightweight, fast algorithm, have it run in real time in live video so that you really had a true frictionless experience and put that out at the edge. And that's what SAFR Scan is. Now, we're really focused on what else does it do today. We did the webinar last month that really focused in on the features and the technology, and I'm rehashing a little bit of that. But when you look at the cost, it's what else can the device do? Our device can stream video to a VMS. It can stream live video, raw video to the VMS 1080p, or it can stream the video that we're analyzing and throw the overlays and the names that you'll kind of see through this demo can be streamed to the VMS. We also can do analytics. We can do people counting, persons of interest, tailgating. So we're taking a reader and we're expanding what it does, which we've obviously reduced the cost of the product significantly, but now we've expanded what it does, which we get a little bit of economies of scale there. And so we can talk about that one-on-one in the future. But today we're really focusing in on enrollment. So Brad, if you wouldn't mind jumping to the next slide. So again, we're looking at face-based solutions and the advantages of them. But what we really want to start to do is expand that beyond biometrics, beyond just fingerprint or iris or face, and actually look at how this technology can aid us in addressing and mitigating problems in card-based solutions. And of course, cost is always a factor. And one of those costs that we talk about when we talk about biometrics, it's really the cost of enrollment. And that's what we're going to focus in on this morning. Brad, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So the hardware looks, just like standard architecture in an access control environment. Device sits out at the door, it connects back to an access control panel back to, the access control head in. And if you're familiar with traditional biometrics, that's where the problem exists. How do I get people from the PACS system into the biometric device? So Brad, if you wouldn't mind jumping to the next slide. And the number one issue is oftentimes the cost involved in enrolling your population. If I have 5,000 people in my enterprise, I have to bring them typically all in so that I can reprocess or re-image them, whether it's finger, iris, face, whatever the case may be. But what we're going to demonstrate to you today is seamless integration using your existing PACS system, existing images in your PACS system, and we'll be able to take those directly without any other intervention. So sort of that single pane of glass approach really don't change the enrollment process. but we're still able to achieve 3D liveness. And that has to do with the algorithm itself and how fast it operates. The sensor technology that we use can analyze both IR and RGB simultaneously, one frame right after the other. And so we're able to basically, in 200 milliseconds, analyze a picture, find a face, extract the face into the algorithm, run it against the database in 200 milliseconds. So we're basically flipping between 3D liveness and that authentication process. So we can take your standard 2D RGB image, pull that into our system, and actually, and we'll demonstrate this here this morning, use that and be able to authenticate and liveness detect that particular individual. So what we're talking about here is being able to take that database from a system without any extra functionality and walk up to the reader and use it. Now, obviously, that is going to reduce that cost to re-enroll. So you'll see a little asterisk there. So this is computer vision. It's not magic, right? So if you're showing me, if you're pulling an image from 15 years ago, and I'm 50 pounds heavier and, all kinds of different, I don't look like the same person. Well, of course, we're going to need to re-enroll those individuals. But you're able to do that again through that PAC system, the same interface that your customer is already accustomed to. And this can be done like you'll see today in real time, but it can also be done in bulk. So we can point to an existing database, pull those images and be able to use them. And for some individuals that might be outside of the range, there's a couple of years between now and that picture, they'll work, but maybe those are individuals that over time we can update their image again through that existing access control system. So we're going to now pass over to Steve. Steve's going to walk us through this process. Actually, and while he's getting set up, I just wanted to mention, currently we have interfaces to AMAG and Software House, to the Secure 9000. And then we are working on some of these other ones at the moment, Brevo, Genetec, and Linnell, and we're going to just continue to add. The one thing I want to explain though, sorry, Steve, before we get into the demo, is this integration, this is the tip of the iceberg, is sort of we see it. This is work that we do in order to address this enrollment process. But at the end of the day, the product can do so much more. For instance, we talked about tailgating or surveillance. These are kinds of features and functionality that we can provide APIs to the actual product that can be brought directly into access control systems, into the event management, into the VMS, so that those systems can get much more granular information. So we really see this as a kicking off point, and I think you'll be interested in how we've been able to accomplish it because it is unique in the industry. All right, Steve, thank you.
Okay, thanks. My name is Steve McMillan, Director of Solutions Engineering at SAFR, and I manage the global team of SEs. So I'd like to start out by describing the setup that you see here. I'm on a Windows desktop machine. On the left, what you see is a web browser with the SAFR Scan web console, where you can connect directly to the SAFR Scan reader.
Steve, I think we need to share your screen for the browser.
Oh, I thought I was, okay, let me check that. Oh, thanks.
There we go.
There, all right. Okay, so on the left is the SAFR Scan web console, and that is the management tool to just go directly to each reader. And I'm in the live view, which shows on the left-hand side of that window is the camera's view of the environment. And on the right-hand side is where you'll see events show up, such as recognition events and access granted events. Then on the right side of the window, we have the SAFR desktop application. On this machine, I have both installed the SAFR server and the SAFR desktop. The SAFR server is, we connect that to the PAC systems to be able to sync faces over to SAFR. And the SAFR server also connects to all of the SAFR Scan devices. So while through the browser, you can manage a single device, through the SAFR server and the SAFR desktop interfaces, you can manage multiple readers all at once in a single location. This particular window I have open is the person window, which allows you to view, add, and edit people. Additionally, you'll see one, you see in my view, I've got the reader is in the background there on, I guess it'd be your left, and the door in the background, the reader is connected to the panel, and then the panel connected to the door, and that's what we're going to be controlling today in this demo. Once we've imported some faces from the PACS system. And in another view, you see a close-up of the SAFR Scan device. So with that all set up, I'm just going to go ahead and start. We're going to start out by demonstrating I am not currently in the database, in the SAFR's database, nor am I in the reader. And I can just verify that by walking over to the reader and doing an attempt at getting access. So if I walk up to the reader, I'm gonna have to stand a little bit longer, and you'll notice that it showed the red LED ring and printed a message, no access. Basically, because to make sure it's not a lighting issue, it tries for a little longer than normal, and then it refuses access when it doesn't find the face in the system. So now I want to add my face to the system. I'm going to go over to AMAG, which I have actually initially. Let me show you first how we've connected to the AMAG server. It's actually quite easy. You go into System Configuration. You can scroll down to Set up External Identity Synchronization. And when you check that, it's going to have you input the type of external system that you're connecting to, in this case, AMAG, the IP address and the credentials of that server. And then when you connect, it will come back to the screen and show you the sync connection status, which will, in this case right now, is green, okay, meaning we're connected, and it's actively syncing faces. It will do every 5 seconds. It'll update its database. So whenever you make an update to AMAG, those faces will come down and be added to SAFR server and then propagated out to all of the SAFR Scan devices that are connected. And you can enable or disable this if you want to pause syncing for a little bit. So with that set up, I can go over to the AMAG server and list the faces that are here to start with, but then I'll add a new face. And I'm going to add my face using the camera. So once the camera loads here, I'll go ahead and take a snapshot. And notice that the face that it's pulled in is got the full camera view. It doesn't crop the face out and shows you a zoom portrait. But when SAFR gets it, you'll see that SAFR is able to just detect the face itself and crop the image down to the important data. I'm going to go ahead and put in the name information, the card number, and facility code, as well as the card format. And then I'll save this record. And now I have a new record in AMAG, but more importantly, over in SAFR, just a few seconds later, we'll have a new record in SAFR. So this is now in the SAFR server, and it's being propagated to all the SAFR Scan devices. So now we can go take a look at the live view, and you're going to see on the right-hand side, it's going to show the recognition event, and it's going to show an access granted event once it's verified that it is me and that it's a really a live version of me. So it's going to use a mixture of 3D and RGB spoofing, anti-spoofing detection to make sure that it's really me. So I'm going to walk around and show that demo. And you can hear that the door has clicked, unlocked. The reader had signaled. In this case, it's connected via Wiegand to the panel and signaled to unlock the door. So,
hey, Steve, I wanted to just point out, if you'll put back the browser there, you'll notice the lighting condition here is less than ideal. But if you look at the image that it's captured there and looking at Steve's face, what we're able to actually do is focus in on the face, even though we're sort of backlit and creating all kinds of lighting problems. and the algorithm will focus in on the face and adjust the contrast and brightness for his face. So this doesn't matter if this is outdoors with the sun directly behind you, with the sun on the other side of the reader shining on your face. We actually prioritize the face, and you saw that happen as you approach. That lighting adjusted to address that. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thanks, John. And you can also see that it's got this green heart showing that liveness was verified. In addition to matching the identity to the face in the database, it also verified that the face was live and not a spoof. So, with that, actually, I can show you how SAFR handles spoofing attempts. So I'm going to use this cutout of my face, and I'm going to approach the reader, but have this in front of my face. So we're going to see if it'll detect that. So as I approach, again, it's an access denied scenario. So it's going to take a little bit longer to double check that it's not a lighting issue. And sorry, it was not scrolling down, but there you can see the event appeared. The recognition attempt, it did recognize the picture as Steve McMillan, but it refused access because the liveness has that orange heart, meaning it was not, it concluded it was not a live face. Then also I'd like to kind of show a little bit of how it does that. As I mentioned, it does both 2D and 3D or RGB analysis on the image, as well as 3D. We can show you how it collects that 3D information and how it generates that verification. So first, I'm going to switch the camera view into structured light view. And this is basically using thousands of points of light, and it's projecting it out onto surfaces to measure 3D. So if I get in front of the camera, you can kind of see that it has the little dots of light on the surface of my body. That information is used to then generate a 3D model. So when I switch the camera view to 3D, and I get in front of the camera, you can see that it's generating a 3D model of my face in front of the camera. And
Steve, it actually stayed on the structured lighting.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and see if I can switch that.
There you go. Now you're good.
Great, thanks. So you can see that 3D structure of my face being generated from the structured light data that's then read by the IR sensor. Okay, so lastly, I want to show you what happens when updates occur to the system where the faces are being stored. You can go over back into AMAG, and I could either change the enrollment expiration, or I can simply delete this face from AMAG. If I do that, once it's deleted and come back to SAFR, just within seconds, that face is going to be removed from the database. So it's no longer there. So with that, I will turn it back over to Brad.
All right. Let's see. I think there was a question.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to, before I answer that question, Brad, is I wanted to point out that this is the exact same functionality that exists in Software House that we were demonstrating back at GSX. And it's the same that it's going to be for Brevo, for Genetec, for every other solution that we integrate with. So just walk into the PAC system, do the standard enrollment, whatever the image is, even if it's a widescreen, even if they use mobile apps to do their enrollment, we can capture that data, pull it down, and use it in our device, just as Steve demonstrated. So we have a question from my buddy, Mike Marcasella, and it's with the implementation of FIPS 201-3, adding the ability to use facial images as a biometric form of authentication, are you thinking about adding any feature of high assurance access control that will make this device a player in the government space? So the answer to the question is absolutely. And Mike, you kind of hit on the main functionality there, is the fact that they already have a credential that has an incredibly good RGB image stored on it. So we're looking at a couple of different iterations. Obviously, If you just simply took a software house system that has your incredibly well-built Inametrics PIV solution and enrolled those records into software house, they're actually already available. So those faces could be used in our system with the current integration. We're looking at long-term being able to add an insert biometric reader, or when the time comes and we can do, I can't think of the acronym for it, but we'll be able to actually pull the image over wireless connection in the near future. Being able to implement it so a person can walk up with a PIV card and be able to authenticate against the template that's on the card. And in fact, we never even need to store anything in the device or in the back end. We can do it in real time. So hopefully that answered your question there, Mike. And looking for opportunities and applications where folks are looking to implement that. And, you know, those are always things that help us to do the development a little quicker when there's a customer looking for the solution. But there are iterations, as I mentioned, that we could demonstrate and show now with the current integration, and then future capabilities that just don't exist. Okay, let's see, Steve, do you want to answer? Somebody asked about the database. Does it work on SQL? Do you want to?
Yeah, sure, I see that. So yes, basically the SAFR stores the data internally, but when it's pulling data from external databases, it's very easy to use our REST APIs to pull data from any source. So as long as you have a way to either pull the data out of the database to CSV and import that, we have very good tools to simply read in that CSV. One of the columns would be the image file. The other columns would be the metadata that you want to pull in. And we have a tool that can just load that in, basically let you edit it in Excel and then import it into SAFR. Or you can custom build something with our REST APIs. And it's a simple people insert, which you pass the metadata and the image and insert it into the SAFR database.
And then along those lines, we didn't really mention it, but what Steve was showing you was the software, what we call the SAFR platform. That was an on-prem version. We can also deploy this in a cloud solution. So you don't have to have any of your database there locally, which opens up a really incredible array of features, things like mobile authentication. Security officer could be walking around with his mobile phone anywhere and be connected to that cloud database and being able to do enrollments and authentication. So a lot of scalability there. Let's see, another question. Let's see. Okay, are these products purchased direct distribution or access control manufacturers? So our focus channel is through our access control partners, and we're establishing those. As you see, some of the integrations are already in play, and this product will be managed and offered through those partners and through the sort of leveraging their existing infrastructure and integrators to get this product out to consumers.
We should also note that we have a loaner and trial program that you can work with us directly on if you would like to get one to try out.
Yep. And how is your delivery dates? Obviously with the supply chain and pandemic, those are always interesting, but we're doing really well. Products are being built right now and shipped out the door. So if you needed a loaner, for instance, that would ship out in a week or so. If you were looking for, a small quantity, those are always, somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks. But if you were looking for 500 or 1,000, the more notice that we have, the easier it is to accommodate those kinds of dates. But those, anything in the larger quantity is sort of a TBD. But for instance, we have a project that we're working on right now that's just over 1,200 readers that should that be awarded, that'll all be shipped and delivered this year. So, working with schedules like that's not difficult as long as there's exposure up front.
Right. So I think that's the questions that we have right now. So with that, that concludes the webinar. There's more information available at SAFR.com. Data sheets, technical specs. If you want to view the webinar from last month, which is a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the features and functionality especially the liveness technology, which is pretty interesting. So you can go view that webinar from our website. And of course, reach out to us, any questions, comments. This is John's email. You can reach him directly if you have any questions. And certainly through SAFR.com, you can reach out to us with any questions. All right, so with that, we appreciate everyone's time. Thanks for joining. We will have another webinar coming up next month, so stand by for information on that. And with that, thanks everyone, and appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks everyone.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks all.